It's not about living till we're 100.
Yeah.
It's whatever age we live until being as healthy.
Yeah.
And that quality of life. The benefits of exercise, if you go from doing nothing to something. Whereas if you're already doing something, the gains,
fine-tuning
the marginal gains are
important.
not as much, but it's important. Exercise is good for you. Start somewhere, build it up, and really go for gold with strength training, especially as we age. Getting that active recovery in, right? So getting those steps in and building that community spirit. So find a friend, go for a walk and talk so that you're out. Build your meal plant-based. Use your lean meats, your fish, etc. as your topping. To the 6 pillars where you're looking at that sleep, the nutrition, the exercise piece, the movement piece, your stress management, the social connectedness. As we age, can we do what we want to do? Can we enjoy our holidays? Can we enjoy our children, our grandchildren?
Picking up the babies.
If you have a fall, can you pick yourself up rather than having to wait 3 days with a fracture while somebody comes to find you? Right? Can you run around with people? Can you do your travel? Can you do your hiking? Just things you enjoy. Can you do your sport? So getting that nutrition right. Getting that sleep right. Getting that active, passive recovery right. And it changes. Right? But it's not one size fits all.
I completely agree.
And it might be that you need some time to deload as well. We should be way past sick care. We should be into well care, right? It's looking at feeling as good as possible forever.
Welcome to the Wellness Collective, where we uncover the hidden connections between your body and well-being. I'm your host, Dr. Chai Ling, and in today's episode, it's entitled Why Timing Matters, Harness Your Menstrual Cycle for Fitness Success. We are joined by the insightful Dr. Tashiya Mirando. With her deep expertise in women's health and lifestyle medicine, Dr. Tash will guide us through the fascinating world of menstrual syncing with fitness. Discover how the right timing can transform your health and supercharge your workouts. Let's dive into this empowering discussion. So Dr. Tash, it's so great to have you here. We're actually very excited about this episode because this is something that is going to affect me and all these girls here, which is menstrual syncing for fitness. So can you just tell me a little bit more in a nutshell, what does that mean?
So actually when we were thinking about this topic, I was quite an advocate for menstrual cycling when it comes to exercise. Since then, over the last few months, there have been some new research that has come out as well. So I'm very excited to go through all of this with you. What it means is really as women, we have a cycle, right? So our hormones are fluctuating, unlike men where it's pretty much a 24-hour testosterone cycle. So it's much easier where every 24 hours you can do the same thing. Whereas for us as women, if we really look at our cycle and if it's regular, it changes. Right? So from when we have our periods, so when all the hormones are right down at the bottom, to then building into the various phases, so your follicular phase, your luteal phase, so looking at your estrogen, progesterone, and never forgetting testosterone, which runs in the background, nice and steady, with a few peaks and troughs. Depending on that, then we should be looking at how we manage our exercise.
Oh, I never knew that. But I definitely do feel like at some times in a month, I feel more tired, but I don't know if that's related to the menstrual cycle. It could be, right?
Yes, it could be. But it's very individual. So a lot of this research stems historically, I'm talking, in the late 90s, early 2000s, from an athlete point of view. But it's very hard to base your event, your tournament, based on where you are in your cycle. So it's how do you really optimize things? And it's balancing the nutrition piece and the rest of lifestyle medicine, which I'm a firm advocate for, to then within that cycle, what do you do? But at the end of the day, it's very individual. So it's how do we look at the person sat in front of us, guiding them on the exercises, whether it's cardiovascular, whether you're looking at the strength work, and tweaking and changing things according to that person.
Okay, that's great. It sounds like biohacking so that we can get the maximum out of the exercise, because it's true. There are some times in a month that I really don't feel I have the energy to run. And I think if you force me to do it, I will just not be able to do it, you know?
And I think that's the important part is, you know, we may have research, evidence, but at the end of the day, if you don't feel like it, pushing yourself harder, especially if you're under-fueled, so you haven't had that right amount of your proteins, your fiber, you haven't had enough sleep, it doesn't matter where you are in your cycle. It just doesn't tweak or change.
Because, you know, nowadays it isn't just for athletes. All the women I talk to, they want to optimize their health and fitness. So knowing this means that we should be choosing certain exercise for different parts of our cycle.
So again, this is about choice, right? So it's very hard right now as a blanket statement to say, right, every single woman must be cycling their exercise. I'm going with progressive overload, right? Because 3 key areas as we age, especially as women, optimizing our muscle mass, optimizing our strength, which means we will optimize and improve our endurance. Because, for example, over the age of 65, you have a fall and a fracture, it significantly increases your morbidity and your mortality. And that's what we want to do. Is it's not about living till we're 100. It's whatever age we live until, being as healthy and that quality of life.
Yeah, that's actually really true, because, you know, I was traveling and I realized that just hauling the luggage off the conveyor belt, when I'm traveling alone, I feel like actually it's a little bit of a struggle. And, you know, we're not even talking about strength so that we can compete, but to be able to do functional stuff like traveling alone. And people don't realize that.
And that is it. It's about day to day. If we break it down, it's looking at what do I want to do, right? I love my sport, right? I'm a tennis player. And everything I do in the gym, everything, you mentioned the term biohacking. Now, again, that's quite a popular term to use, but it's really looking at, for me as an individual, how do I need to fuel my body? If I'm playing a tennis tournament, what do I need to do? How much extra, you know, carbohydrates do I need to have? It's not just about the protein. What about my sleep? What about, especially in Singapore, it's hot, it's humid. There's a big difference between playing a tennis match at 2 p.m. in the afternoon here versus in the UK, for example. So it's really looking at how, not just about the performance at the time, but also the recovery piece.
So how do you advise your patients? I understand you see many female patients. How do you advise them on what sort of activities would be best for them? Are there like individual age groups, like in their 20s, 30s, 30s, 40s?
So this is the difference, is when we start to get into our 30s, and I know that's actually really young, we do start to lose muscle mass and even bone density if we are not doing the right things. So that progressive overload, building strength, and for somebody who's been working out, doing sport all their lives, yes, going to the gym, personal trainer, it's money worth spent, because you can really build on your strength, right? But if somebody's never exercised, you go straight to gym and start lifting your body weight, you're going to be injured. So it's starting with those sort of core body work, using just your body weight exercises, the calisthenic side of things, looking at Pilates, reformer Pilates, and never forgetting the stretch part. So looking at yoga, your breath work. And then if you want to look at it from a cycle point of view, and this is where actually I've got a really nice image and we can maybe share it after, is really looking at where you are in your cycle, right? And it's worth a trial, right? So I use me as an example. Once upon a time, I would be, you know, I would look at my cycle and then look at my exercise based on that. But it gets to a point where you know what your numbers are, you know how you need to fuel your body. So it doesn't really make much of a difference. And there's a new paper that came out recently, a few months ago, which, very small study, but they actually took not just blood samples, but muscle biopsies, where they looked to see, was there a difference whether you increased your strength training or cardiovascular training during a cycle. And the answer was no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So interesting. And actually the study was, and we can share all of that as well. But it's really looking at what works for the individual.
I see. So you don't actually have to time it with your cycle. For people who don't know anything about it, just doing some amount of exercise is good enough. Okay.
And again, not just with the difference between being sedentary and doing some exercise is huge.
Okay.
Right? So there will be a big jump in the benefits of exercise if you go from doing nothing to something. Whereas if you're already doing something, the gains,
fine-tuning
the marginal gains are
important.
not as much, but it's important.
I get it.
Really looking at body composition. So BMI, I don't like calories. A calorie is not a calorie. So it's really looking at your body composition. So your muscle mass, your body fat percent, that peripheral fat, visceral fat. And looking at how you can feel as good as possible.
Okay, that's interesting. So in the study, were they looking at normal, average women, or were they looking at athletes?
No, so this was average, but again, it was a small number. So N equals 12. Menstrual cycle phase does not influence muscle protein synthesis or whole body myofibrillar proteolysis in response to resistance exercise.
So
again,
long
small
as
study.
they did it,
Yeah, small study, but it's definitely worth thinking about and worth a conversation, which is why we have, and again, this is where social media plays a part, right? Everybody's being told what to do when it's very individual. So my general point of view with this is exercise is good for you. Start somewhere, build it up, and really go for gold with strength training, especially as we age. And there might be times in your cycle that you feel better than other times. So if we break down the cycle itself, really looking at, when you have your period. So those first few days you might feel a little bit flatter. So use that time as a bit of recovery time. And then with the estrogen, little bit of testosterone build up into that ovulation. That's where you can actually push a little bit more. And a lot of women feel a lot stronger at that point. Then you're going into that luteal, late luteal phase where progesterone, which is our calming hormone, kicks in. And that's where we could look at slightly more on the stretching parts, your Pilates, your yoga, a bit of active recovery. And then, but try it. 3 to 6 months, play around, see how you feel. I would say as long as you're fueling your body right, because again, as women, we are built to underfuel our bodies. Right?
Because all of us are always on a diet and
So
I get it.
we have to really prioritize nutrition. I'm going to say 80% is nutrition, 100% is sleep, nutrition. And then as long as you're sleeping well, you're fueling your body right, that exercise piece plays a huge part.
I mean, it sounds like you do prioritize strength training. And I think that's correct because a lot of women, that's quite overlooked, isn't it? Strength training. Because most women, they want to lose weight. They're always doing cardio. So do your patients ask you if it's okay to exercise during the menstrual cycle? Because when I do yoga, and then they always say, those people who are having the menstrual cycle, we don't do the headstands and the inversions. So do you tell your patients to take a break or it's okay to exercise?
I mean, it's as long as you know your body. Right? So I always tell my patients, listen, you know yourself better than anyone else. And see how it goes. If you feel well, because sometimes when you're on your period, if it's a lot heavier, you're losing a lot of iron, you might feel a bit more dizzy. Might feel a lot more tired. So maybe something like a headstand. It might drop your blood pressure and you might feel quite unwell. But if it's something you've been doing for many, many, many years and you're used to it, then
why not,
conform to something that is, that we don't have enough research for.
So for our listeners, and they may not understand the luteal phase, imagine you're having a 28-day, the normal cycle. So how would they look at it? When they're having their flow, I guess maybe they can go a bit gentle. Then right after the period ends, is that where they feel they should still go slow? Or that's where they feel the most amount of energy?
So if we break it down to say 28 days, those first day 1 to 5, that's when you're having your period. So see how you do, right? If you feel, first couple of days,
very
take
optional.
it a bit easy, very optional. And then you start to build it up.
So
then
slowly
you're
build up.
Going up to that sort of day 12, 14, 15, 16.
That's where you are.
Where you can really, you could go for personal bests. But again, you've got to fuel your body right.
Yes.
And you feel your body.
Okay.
If you feel you can do it, great, carry on.
Okay.
Then when that progesterone starts to rise later
Yes.
on, so you're going into that day 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, see how you do, right? There
Okay.
are some women who feel no different and they
Okay.
can just keep going.
Yep.
But others who go, oh, I need to drop the weight just a little bit.
So it's almost like from where your period is, you're going up and then tapering down. And that's
Exactly.
what? Okay.
Yeah.
But that's actually quite useful because some women, they're very sensitive to hormonal change.
Yes,
Like some of my patients, they actually tell me they actually feel crankier, they have sugar cravings. So for women like this, sometimes it's good to know because we're always pushing ourselves and it's good to know, oh, maybe it's okay to taper off or even change the type of exercise.
Yeah. And this is that second half of the cycle. Progesterone's a nice calming hormone.
Yes.
But a lot of women will have PMS.
Yes.
So your premenstrual
Yes.
syndrome. And even dysphoria where their mental health gets impacted.
Oh, a
just
lot of
before.
women cranky, shouting at boyfriends. Yeah.
And it can even be worse where it impacts their mental health so much with PMDD,
Yes.
where they become really depressed.
Yes.
And it can increase their risk of harm to themselves.
So during that time, is there some form of exercise that can improve their well-being? Because, exercise do release endorphins.
Yeah.
So it's chicken or egg.
Yes.
Yeah.
So getting that active recovery in, right? So getting those steps in and building that community spirit. So find a friend, go for a walk and talk so that you're out.
Yeah.
Right? If you have group classes you go to, you attend it because then you're around people you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And as women, we understand each other. We just don't talk enough about it.
Yes.
Also looking at the nutrition piece, fueling the body, hydrating well.
Yes.
If you're doing a lot of exercise outside, just drinking plain water without any electrolytes in it is also not a good thing for the body.
Yes.
So it's how do we build those electrolytes in to help us feel as good as possible and getting plenty of sleep.
So you talk about nutrition is very important. It sounds like sleep is very important. For nutrition, what would be the few key takeaways you tell your patients?
Protein and fiber. I know everything online is about
that
protein,
sounds
protein.
A bit keto.
So protein is looking at really building it plant-based. So it's not just about eating, lean meats and your beefs and your fish.
Oh, okay.
Look at your beans, your pulses. You're then getting some protein plus your fiber out of it as well.
I see.
Tofus, tempehs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese. I understand there's a bit of a shortage of cottage cheese in Singapore at the moment. So I have to send my apologies because
and
I keep telling everyone.
A lot of people in Singapore don't also know that you can get a lot of protein from plants because, I think, generally, when they talk about protein, we always think it's meat eaters because we look at all these big strong men eating protein and then,
Lots of vegetarians and vegans who are big strong men. Okay.
Oh. Are you vegetarian or vegan?
I'm not. Okay. No, I try and find the balance that works for me.
Okay.
And sometimes the numbers even I have to hit with what I lift in the gym.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to physically consume all of that.
Really?
So it's finding then how do I be smart about it? So how do I really look at my 3 hacks? Greek yogurt, cottage cheese and tofu.
Oh my goodness. So you try to get some amount of protein into 3 meals.
Yeah. So your 3 meals and sometimes even with snacks in between.
Okay.
The whole point, and this is something again, we're so built on eat less, train more.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas I'm going, no, we've got to actually eat more, but of the right things to fuel our body and train smarter.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Get those rest days in. It's not just about,
So you don't feel that women eat enough protein and that's why we need to focus on it?
I just think women don't eat enough in general.
Really?
Forget what it is. Forget protein, fiber. I just think we're so...
Is this just in Singapore or where you come from in London? That was
absolutely.
Really?
And it's also
you think women don't eat enough?
Yeah. It's also looking at ultra-processed food, right? So technically, we should be going through our day without ever feeling hungry. We should be fueling our body consistently
Okay. That's actually very surprising for most women because they tell me they're hungry all the time. It almost seems like a lifestyle that because with this intermittent fasting, so a lot of my patients, they read about intermittent fasting. So they're fasting till, I don't know, 12 noon. So they're hungry. And then when they eat like little birds. And so pretty much they're like in a constant state of fasting. It's very sad.
But think about this. As we age, and for us as women, perimenopause, menopause, the hormonal fluctuations are real.
Yes.
Right? What we don't realize is actually our key hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, is created from cholesterol. So if we start to starve ourselves as we age, thinking this is the way I need to lose weight, we will retain more fats, the body will produce more cholesterol, and that has to deposit somewhere. So it's actually counterintuitive. So whereas if you fuel your body, you're actually giving your body what it needs. And doing the strength training, we're then converting fat to muscle. We're building muscle. Muscle is much better metabolically as well. Which means automatically you end up being able to eat more. Because your basal metabolic rate goes up.
And the protein makes you feel full for longer, doesn't it?
Especially when you're building it. So I say build your meal plant-based. Use your lean meats, your protein, your fish, etc. as your topping.
Nice.
Right. So you're getting then that impact from fiber. You end up eating a lot more volume of food, but for less
I get it.
Impact
that's
on
why
the
with
body.
the plant-based.
But it's how do we change mindset?
It's very difficult.
Seriously,
So for those people who may not know exactly what to take, is there a number they should reach? Like, you know, how many grams of protein a day?
So the recommended daily allowance, so RDA, is 0.8 grams per kilo of body weight.
Is that on the low side, you think?
That is very much on the low side.
Really on the low side.
Because the actual research that was done for that is just, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't even say that's maintenance. Right? So my numbers I tend to use, and again, it's very individual, is anywhere between 1.2 grams per kilo of body weight up to 2.2 grams, depending on what you're doing. But from a maintenance point of view, but I have a lot of women go, I can't be eating 100 grams of protein. But you break it down.
You break it down.
Right? And that way you're constantly fueling your body. So you're not going through these peaks and troughs of suddenly eating a lot and then nothing. A lot and nothing.
Because, you know, with you saying that, I have a subset of patients that tell me they're doing OMAD, which is one meal a day, which is really suddenly eating a lot because they fast the whole day. And then by night, they're so hungry. But I think they do it mainly because there's this whole narrative that women has to be skinny. But I think it adds a bit more stress onto the body.
Yes, very much so. Gone are the days where skinny is what we need to be, right? We need to be strong. Right? Forget what it says on the scale in a sense. Really look at your body composition. So the gold standard right now is a DEXA scan. Okay, so you're looking at your body composition. So looking at that muscle mass with your body fat percent rather than from a weight point of view. But it's hard, right? How do you...
It is really
We've been ingrained into eating less, going for lots and lots of runs and doing long, you know, HIIT workouts. But everything has its place. So it's balancing out that strength work with the high intensity work, especially if you're looking at that endurance piece, so your VO2 max, then looking at your zone 2. So the fat burn. So it's where you can talk, but you can't sing. Right? So 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. And then passive recovery as well. So now there's a lot more information out there, and your patients probably go through that as well, is looking at things like your sauna, infrared sauna.
Also passive, the hot and cold therapy.
But again, it's finding what works for you. It's not this one size fits all where everyone needs to go into a 1 degree ice bath. And especially for women. And now Stacey Sims has come out with more research as well.
So many contradictory studies. So women are getting very confused as well. Even with ice baths, I mean, there were people saying it's good. And then there are studies saying that it causes more stress in women. So, you know.
We just have to find that steady state. In a way, we have to almost live rather boring lives to have that steady state where the body day in, day out, whether it's a Monday or a Saturday, you're doing the same thing. But it also has to be sustainable.
It has to be sustainable,
right? So if it means, okay, at the weekend, I've got a bit of a heavier weekend, right? I'm going to make sure I'm going to prioritize my sleep, really hydrate my body, and and then find the rest and recovery time.
I think rest and recovery is very important.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a question that all the girls, I think, are dying to know, because you mentioned protein and fiber. They are all wanting to know, what about carbs?
Yes. So when I say
they're a bit
fiber,
worried. They're looking very worried. Like, what? She did mention carbs.
When I talk about fiber, I'm talking complex carbohydrates. We should not be afraid of carbohydrates, right? Especially if you're exercising a lot. So if you're doing a lot of sport, if you're doing a lot of long endurance work, runs, half marathons, ultra marathons, you really have to prioritize the carbohydrate.
Yeah.
And when I say carbs, I'm not saying eat cake, eat biscuits. Be smart about it.
See.
Think about that plant base. Think about your fruit, your vegetables.
Yes.
And again, things like rice and pasta plays its part. So if you're doing some sort of sport where you're in a high intensity for 30 to 60 minutes, so we say 60 minutes, we have to fuel our body for that. Because otherwise what happens is we start going into our muscle.
Yeah.
And then we lose our muscle mass rather than burning through the energy we fueled. And the same thing applies with women working out fasted. It gets harder as we get older.
Yes, most women work out fasted.
It's fueling the body.
Okay.
Because what we don't want is to go into a chronic fatigue.
Yes.
Where the body is constantly in this recovery mode, but we're not giving it that time to recover.
Yes, that's true.
But it's listen to your body.
But women nowadays tell me they're so busy. There's so many different exercises out there. And because if time is a problem, like I probably have only like an hour a day if I wanted to exercise, what sort of exercise should I be prioritizing?
Prioritize your strength.
Okay.
And
so for you, that's
getting
strength
those
training first and getting those steps.
Okay. And getting those steps in.
And if I have more time?
Then you look at how do you individualize it to you.
Okay.
So is there a sport that you enjoy doing?
Okay,
because then you can actually put that into practice. I'm biased, so I'm going to say racket sports.
Yeah. I'm
all the way
at racket sports.
Evidence to show it gives us, especially tennis, an extra 9 years of life.
Oh, really? Does it? Oh, goodness. Okay.
It's really, for me, bringing in that lifestyle medicine piece, right? So the 6 pillars where you're looking at that sleep, the nutrition, the exercise piece, the movement piece, your stress management, the social connectedness.
Yeah, that's also important. People kind of overlook it. But, you know, like going to the gym, I think if you don't have a group of people that go with you, after a while, perhaps you're not going to...
It's very individual. I have families that train together.
Oh, really?
I have couples who say, no, I want to do this by myself.
Okay.
But it's finding what works to you.
Okay.
So it's, say, for example, you start with one-to-one personal training. You can always do a step down into a group class. But the priority is
the strength training part.
Progressive overload. Getting stronger.
Progressive overload.
And not even for anything other than you mentioned earlier about when you travel. Just as simple as, can I pick up my suitcase and put it above, or do I have to wait for somebody else to come and do it for me? If you have a fall, would you be able to pick yourself up?
Okay, so progressive overload for my listeners who may not understand, that is, you are actually doing maximal weight strength training, not the 2 kg, 100 reps that, that Alina is doing in front of you. That's not it. It means that you are actually progressively trying to find your maximal resistance. That's hard to do though, because women tend to not. Okay, one of the things my patients always tell me is, I don't want big muscles. They always say that. But it's not that easy to get big muscles either.
My usual comeback to that is it's disrespectful to power lifters to say you're worried about getting too many muscles. Because these men and women train, that's their full-time job, to look like that. It's very hard to look like that. It is very hard. You have to be so specific on your sleep, your nutrition, and what you do.
Okay.
So it's not about, it's actually really difficult to have that sort of contours, that muscle building. It's about overall how strong you get. Okay. So think of it as this is future-proofing the you now.
Yes.
Right? As we age, can we do what we want to do?
Yes.
Can we enjoy our holidays? Can we enjoy our children, our grandchildren?
Picking up the babies.
Exactly. If you have a fall, can you pick yourself up rather than having to wait 3 days with a fracture? while somebody comes to find you.
Wow.
Right? Can you run around with people? Can you do your travel? Can you do your hiking? Just things you enjoy. Can you do your sport?
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I base mine around tennis.
Yeah.
And I build everything around it.
But you still go to the gym, right? I mean,
very much so.
And so I guess when you say base around tennis means when you go to the gym, you're doing the exercise that makes you better at tennis.
Absolutely.
I see.
And to be able to last a 2 to 3 hour tennis match at 2 p.m. on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon, which is when our matches tend to be.
Yes.
And being able to recover from that.
Okay.
So it's not just about how you do at that present moment. It's how do I get the recovery piece in.
That's excellent. So find something you love and then make sure you do some progressive overload, strength training, whatever that may be. How about stretching? You mentioned before, I guess the Pilates and Reformer, is that more strength or stretching?
So that's more from a resistance point of view.
Okay. Yeah.
And I would actually put the Pilates side, and again, depends. If you've been doing a lot of exercise all the time, Pilates can be more of the stretch side of things, right? So you're really holding that stretch.
Okay.
And you're giving your muscles and the ligaments, the tendons, what it needs.
Yes.
If it's the first time you're exercising, that is progressive overload, it's resistance, and you're building it up.
Okay.
Now, especially over the age of 65, at least twice a week, we should be prioritizing the stretch part.
Really?
Right?
Okay. So because you stiffen up and then you get all these aches and pains.
And including balance.
Yeah, balance actually is an issue.
So Tai Chi.
Ah, okay.
Right?
I never thought of Tai Chi.
Yeah. Build that in. Even little things like I now get families to do a little competition at home.
Okay.
Where you stand with one foot up. You're finding your balance.
Yeah.
And you see how long you can do it. And then you close your eyes.
Wow, okay.
And you see if you can do it.
That's actually very trying for me because I remember in yoga class, they always say go into the tree position. As soon as the teacher says close your eyes, I just fall over because the small little muscles for proprioception, I think you lose it with age.
And that's what we build every day. So you wake up in the morning, your kettle's boiling or you're waiting for your tea or your coffee. Do a 2-minute workout.
Yes.
Right? You can hold a plank. You can do some push-ups. You can do a wall sit. You can do some squats.
My gosh, okay.
You can literally just stand there.
Yeah.
One leg up. Close your eyes and build it up.
It's amazing, you know, actually with this whole fitness for longevity, it doesn't really mean you have to be in the gym. The way you mention it, we can just incorporate little things throughout the day. I don't know, every time when we're watching The Last of Us and then maybe we hold a little bit of a plank or something, maybe that helps, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. And it's also building it into your day-to-day.
Okay.
It's very easy for us as doctors to know what the research is and tell people, I need you to do this, 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 this.
Yeah.
But it also has to be sustainable. And it's not going to work if you can't build it into your day-to-day.
Understand. So I love the nutrition bit. I love the idea that we are prioritizing protein and not just fasting and eating very little. I mean, I love the intermittent fasting, but I just feel like you're really not getting enough nutrition if you want to incorporate the fitness into it. Yeah. And I love the idea of progressive overload. Now it comes to sleep because one of the issues is even for me, as I get older, I have problems sleeping. I don't sleep as well.
Yeah. And the hormones play a part, right? But it's also, we've become terrible with our sleep routine and our sleep hygiene. So I'm going to say the bedroom is for sleep and sex only, right? So one thing I do with my families, and I'm
not
primary,
the TV.
Exactly.
I do everything in the bedroom, you know?
Yeah, so we have our exercise, we have our work desk, we have our TV, everything, emails.
Okay.
So one thing I run with families, and as I said, I'm a family physician, right? So as a family, everyone leave your phone outside before you get into your bedroom, which is hard.
Easier said than done.
But it's very hard as a parent to turn around and say, tell your teenager to do it if you're not doing it yourself. So it's something to do as a family.
Yeah.
Same with the sleeping time. So making sure that your sleep time is the same.
Yeah.
Whether it's a Monday or a Saturday.
Really?
Right, yeah. Consistency, that routine at nighttime. So some breath work, some mindfulness.
Yeah, I noticed you mentioned breath work.
Yeah.
When you're talking about breath, what kind of breathing? Are you talking about a Wim Hof breathing? Are you talking about a box breathing?
Whatever works for you.
Okay.
Right? Simple, a 6-4-4.
Okay.
Right? You breathe in. You
Into
hold
6 counts?
6 counts, you hold for 4, and you drop again for 4. But it's up to you. There are various techniques.
Okay.
Now, I do it before getting into an ice bath, for example, because you need to really get your breath work in. But yeah, before you sleep, there's also lots of apps that, yes, you can run off your phone outside, right? Which is sort of mindfulness, the Calm app, various things where it just calms everything down.
And
so
the
that
point
you're
of
ready
this
for
breath
sleep.
work is a bit like meditation. It is to clear your mind. So do you meditate, Dr. Tash?
So I do a lot more of the breath work, and it's clearing my mind before sleeping, because we are busy and it is non-stop.
Yes.
And it's finding what works for you.
Okay.
And I can tell you the difference for me between exercising at nighttime versus the morning. It's very different. My sleep is impacted.
Do you exercise at night or in the morning?
Because work-wise as well, I end up, and a lot of our, tournaments, etc., tend to be in the evenings.
Ah, okay.
So it actually is quite hard then to switch off.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So now does your exercise routine, do you try to change it to the morning?
I wish I could.
But sometimes life takes over.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So it's finding what works.
Yeah, you can't have everything. But interestingly, you mentioned that the cold therapy, which is the cold ice bath.
Yeah.
Do you do that alternating with infrared sauna, or do you just do the ice bath?
So actually, it's finding why you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right? So there are certain protocols that you can follow, but it's finding the right clinician who can talk you through it. So that combination of infrared sauna with your cryo chamber, with ice bathing, but doing it for the right reason.
Okay.
Right? It's not just about everyone jumping in an ice bath, and it's different for men and women.
Okay.
Right? Historically, and you know this from a research point of view, we haven't really been researched very much as women.
Yes,
so a lot of data is extrapolated
from the men.
From the men.
Yeah. I guess if you play tennis, then you could be using the ice bath to recover. I hear that the footballers do that. I mean, the English Premier League at least. Yeah. Does it help? Do you think?
It does. Yeah. There is definitely evidence for it.
Okay.
But it's also finding what works for you.
Okay.
Right? And it's not just about that. It's getting that heart rate down, doing your breath work, the mindfulness side of things.
Yeah. So you mentioned you will do some breath work before going into the ice bath. So, because I would presume when I go into ice bath, I think my heart rate goes up. I'm terrified of the cold. In fact, I can't seem to be able to go into an ice bath. I cannot do single digit temperature. I need to do, I think, at least 12 to 14 degrees.
Absolutely.
I can't do the 4 degrees. Yeah. I don't know why.
Yeah. But we shouldn't be, right?
Yeah.
This is where it's finding that temperature that works for us as an individual. And actually, recent research has also shown as women, we should be looking at the double-digit numbers.
That you don't have to do it so cold, right? Yeah. Do you do it immediately after exercise, or do you leave some time before you get into ice bath?
I wish I had all the time in the world just to go and do all my gym work and my tennis and my recovery. It is a full-time job.
It is a full-time job.
So it's finding, there'll be times where I have to do it in between.
Yeah, of course.
And just finding what works.
Okay.
But I do notice a big difference.
You do in terms of recovery and all. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, very much
The reason why I ask is because you're right. There's so much studies that's come out, but I think they're done on men, and they found that if you do the ice bath immediately after strength training, it negates some of the effects of the strength training, and you have to wait something like 4 hours.
Muscle hypertrophy.
Yeah. So I think
if you're a full-time athlete, you have a team that's built around you. And there are instances where I like to, with my patients, build a team around them.
Yes.
Depending on what they're doing. So we have a lot of ultramarathon runners, triathletes, sports persons as well. So it's building the right team around them.
Yeah.
So getting that nutrition right.
Yeah.
Getting that sleep right.
Yeah.
Getting that active, passive recovery right. And it changes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not one size fits all.
I completely agree.
And it might be that you need some time to deload as well.
Yes.
Right? So you get that passive recovery there.
Yeah. It's actually, the human body is actually amazing. I mean, you mentioned you see a lot of women, but you also now tell me you see a lot of athletes that are doing marathons and all that. The human body is amazing. I see what some women are able to achieve, even all the way the 50s and 60s. It shows that actually you know, a lot of women think, oh, once you hit menopause, it's downhill all the way. But that's not really true when you
Not
see
at all.
some of the athletes that are at peak performance all the way into the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's if we don't do anything, that's when we start to get into trouble. So even if you're 60, so if there's somebody who's going, oh, but you know, I'm 60, I'm 70, I'm 80, I can't be lifting anything. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But do it safely, do it the right way. And just really look at that quality of life. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, there's a big difference between being sedentary and starting to exercise.
Okay.
Whereas for me, those little micro changes, you sometimes get frustrated because you're like, but I'm doing more, but I'm not seeing it.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go from nothing to something.
Of course, it's like when you initially lose weight.
Exactly.
Actually, the main issue a lot of my patients says, I'm exercising, but I don't see my weight go down. Yeah. But I think maybe that's where they're building, maybe they're building muscle.
I have a lot of women who come and say, oh, but you know, I can't gain muscle because then I'll gain weight. So I have to duly remind them that a kilo of muscle is the same as a kilo of fat. A kilo is a kilo. But the space a kilo of muscle takes is a lot less compared to a kilo of fat.
And the metabolic rate rises.
And the metabolic rate rises.
So what are the most common issues that your patients come to see you for?
So I see a lot of women's health. So managing the metabolic shifts and changes, plus the hormonal changes that happen in women as we age. We have a significant amount of men's health, teenagers, especially if they're doing a lot of sport. Mental health as well. And actually the impact of if you're not exercising on mental health is huge. A lot of studies there in that area as well, where we can actually look at consistent exercise, sporting activities to really improve our mental health and well-being. But it's looking at the family as a whole.
That's great because it means that women and men as well can come and see you, not just when they are sick, but as soon as they feel that they're not, I mean, they don't have to be athletes. As soon as they don't feel like they're at peak performance, it is, your doors are open to see them and to talk to them and to optimize really their lifestyle.
And this is where don't wait until you're unwell. We should be way past sick care. We should be into well care, right? It's looking at feeling as good as possible forever.
You know, it's great that you say that because a lot of my patients ask me these questions and they say, oh, I don't see a doctor because I'm not actually sick.
But there are lots of things, and this is that prevention piece we call medicine 3.0. Right? So precision medicine, where we're looking at the individual. And what I've found actually over the last probably year or 18 months is a lot more people are coming in going, listen, I want to know about this and what I need to do so it doesn't happen to me. Which I love. Because that's where we can really look at it as to how do we get you feeling as good as possible, get you set up right. So a lot more, you know, women, couples, teenagers coming and going, right, here's what I want to do. What do I need to do?
But do they first come and see you for weight loss initially?
Not necessarily.
And then,
not necessarily. No,
because my patients tend to see me more for weight loss, and then we start talking about all these other issues, and that's why you're here giving us advice.
And again, it's finding the in, right? So somebody comes in saying, oh, I think my hormones are changing. It's like, okay, but what about you? How do you feel? You know, let's talk through, when did you last have any blood tests run? Have you looked at organic causes? What's your thyroid function like? Do you know what your cholesterol is? Is there a genetic history that increases your risk of heart disease? As women especially, we always worry about breast cancer, not realizing that heart disease is the number one risk of death, especially as we age.
That's true.
And also bone health.
Oh, that's big
so
actually.
Osteosarcopenia, medical term, but loss of bone mass and loss of muscle mass.
Loss of muscle mass.
Which results in frailty. And osteoporosis. So in the UK, if you're sedentary, if you're not exercising and you're not on hormone therapy, for example, the risk of osteoporosis over the age of 50 for women is 1 in 2.
Wow, that's 50%. That's huge.
Over that lifespan. But Singapore does it well though when it comes to the exercise piece and the education piece. I really do. Right? Because with all the green spaces, with the outdoor exercise, even from a, Hawker Center point of view, looking at improving the nutrition piece. and the government support that comes, and healthier SG, the technology that they're using as well, to give people the option of, let's track things, let's show you what's happening. Because when you start to feel better and you see your numbers improving, why wouldn't you keep going?
So it's good. At least you're doing something
really
right.
Really good. And also from a longevity point of view, longevity, geromedicine, so it's the science of aging and is Singapore has set up the Center for Healthy Longevity.
That's very good.
And it's great because, yes, we're running it as a pilot program. There's a clinic. It's looking at what can we do, really utilizing that lifestyle piece. And then doing the extra tests and checks and biomarkers on top of that. Because we are an aging population globally.
It is true.
And Singapore has one of the highest health spans and lifespans. So we want to bring that gap. Currently, there's a 10-year gap, meaning the last 10 years of our lives, we are not healthy.
Because what we're doing now, we can't think of it as just for now. We must think of what we're doing for the last 10 years, building the muscle so that we can still carry things when we are in our 60s, our 70s. Great.
Really future-proofing our health and well-being.
So you mentioned the Dexascan. Have you done your Dexascan?
So I've done versions of it. Yes, absolutely. I like to track everything. At any given point, you'll see me.
So it was useful for you to track your muscle mass, your visceral fat, and look at fat percentage.
Because again, this is about how do we find what works for me, right? And that could be different for you. That could be different for our sort of audience, for your audience, for your patients. But it's really prioritizing building that muscle mass and that strength.
I find it a very useful, a metric to kind of track so that you see if you're improving. And like you say, we Singaporeans really love these numbers where we can see it. We will believe it, we feel like we're improving or not.
But it's also finding the right person to go through those numbers with you.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Because sometimes I have so many patients just go and get a blood test. They look at the reference range and they say, no, I'm healthy because everything's fine. But the parameters I personally like to use, and our clinic, we really look at, so at Osler Health, we really look at precision medicine. So based on that individual, it might be that it's within the reference range, but actually it's a lot higher.
It's deteriorating. You need to compare to,
Exactly.
And that's how I feel about weight and BMI. Usually people will just take the weight and BMI, but I actually see a lot of skinny fat people. And when they do the Dexascan, there's so much visceral fat, but the weight seems to be okay, but that's because the bones are like nothing, So
and that's where, and actually that can be quite a shock to the system.
It's quite a shock.
So especially in the South Asian and the Southeast Asian population, BMIs might be, as you said, within the normal to even lower range, but it's really looking at that skeletal muscle mass to body fat percent. Because our risk of heart disease, our risk of metabolic conditions like diabetes, much higher.
I understand. Do you recommend supplements to your patients? So, especially the women?
So supplements are called supplements for a reason, right? Prioritize that nutrition piece. Supplements are extra. You supplement. However, if you don't prioritize and really solidify that foundation, you can't throw enough supplements at someone to get them to feel better. So there are some key supplements that we look at, really looking at vitamin D, which is hugely important. So anti-inflammatory, bone health.
Even though they get a lot of sun, you still think that it's important to supplement?
So 40%, even in this part of the world, are going to be in that insufficient range or lower than where we should be. Because again, it's the absorption. Most of the time, we're wearing sunblock. Right? So we've got that protective layer.
I see.
So, and an absorption point of view, a lot of people don't absorb the vitamin D, especially if they take it orally as well. Looking at calcium. Now, from calcium, this isn't about everybody just going on calcium. That's important to know, right? Because there have been some studies with excessive calcium and then from a cardiac risk point of view. So there are calculators. So the Royal Osteoporosis Society, there are calculators where you can put down everything you eat with your age, your sex, and see if you're getting enough or not, right? So again, try and do things as nutritional as possible.
If you can get it from your food, why not?
Then your B complex, especially if somebody's not absorbing their B12, their folic acid. So looking at, and this is where we run our numbers. If we don't know our numbers here, it's very hard to then see. And then we can tweak and change.
Okay.
Looking at your omega-3, CoQ10, especially from a cardiovascular benefit point of view.
Yeah.
But again, looking at it nutritionally, right? These are just sort of the broader.
Yes.
Vitamin C and zinc from an immunity point of view. And then your magnesium, glycinates, biglycinates, especially from a training point of view, recovery, sleep point of view.
I see.
There's lots and lots more out there.
Okay.
And sometimes I just get my patients to right, either take a photograph or bring all your supplements in.
Oh, yes.
Right? So we can actually look at it and break it down and say, right, but why are you taking this?
Yeah.
Also remember, the more we take orally, it also needs to get broken down by the liver.
Yes.
So we have to protect
our liver. So
our
there's
liver.
a lot of stress on the liver as well. Okay. Yeah.
So if you're going to take a supplement, think why. Am I doing enough nutritionally?
Yes.
Have a conversation with the right healthcare provider.
Yes.
And trial it. 3 to 6 months, trial it, recheck your numbers, keep a note on your symptoms, right? Have a symptom diary.
Okay.
And if things are getting better and your numbers are improving, then
why not, right? Okay. Yeah. So if you are looking at the Singaporean women, how do you think we fare compared to all the women you see in the UK in terms of longevity, health? Are we doing okay?
Absolutely. Because you've got the support as a country.
Right.
From, Ministry of Health, Healthy SG. The options are there, right? And there's a big drive to be healthier.
Okay.
Which I love, right? For me, having access to walking paths, a rail corridor, Mukrichi.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. It's then you build in that walk and talks, you build in that social connectedness side of things. And yes, I know it's hot, but generally speaking, the weather's a lot better.
But hot is better than cold, because if it's winter, then it's another excuse not to go out. Or if it's drizzling. Yeah.
But it's also just the mindset.
Okay.
It's for us as we age, and our generation's doing a lot better.
Yeah.
So are the younger generations.
Yeah.
And we are in a position to really change things.
Okay.
Because we're getting a lot more information, a lot more evidence. And yes, I appreciate social media sometimes spews a lot of things out.
Yeah.
But it's taking the right information based on the latest research, tailoring it to you as an individual.
Okay.
So I think, you're in a much, much better position.
Thank you. So if there's three key pieces of advice you can give to the women, okay? I know that there's so many things they can do. What are 3 changes they can institute today that would make a difference?
Okay.
Yeah.
Strength is key.
Okay.
Right? I know I've said it so much, but strength is key.
I do
really
agree,
prioritize your strength. Don't forget about the importance of sleep.
Yeah, that one, most women.
Okay. For me, number 1 is sleep. If we're not sleeping enough and sleeping well, it really throws a spanner in the works.
So which means that if I don't have enough time, I should just sleep earlier. Forget everything else.
Prioritize your sleep. And my third piece is really look at you as an individual. Don't compare yourself to anyone else.
Yeah.
Find the right clinician for you to come up with the plan for you. Yeah. And then build that team around you.
Okay.
But really, prioritize your strength work. Prioritize your sleep. And do what is sustainable for you so that you have the best quality of life.
I love it, especially the third one, because now on social media, everybody's always comparing to the next person. So that's why there's this whole trend of wanting to be skinny because you look at the next person. But maybe your body type and body shape isn't meant to be. You're meant to be just strong.
Yeah. We're all built differently.
Yeah.
But where we can't go wrong is to be as strong as we can.
Okay.
Both mentally and physically.
That's great. So thank you so much, Dr. Tash. Thank you for joining us on the Wellness Collective. We hope today's episode, Why Timing Matters, harness your menstrual cycle for fitness success, has inspired you to think differently about your fitness routine and menstrual health. A big thank you to Dr. Tash for her enlightening insights and practical advice. If you're looking to tailor your fitness strategies with your cycle, remember, knowledge is power and timing is everything. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated with more transformative content. Share this episode with someone who can benefit from these insights. And until next time, I'm Dr. Chai Ling, encouraging you to keep finding synergy between your body and life goals. Stay well.